been a long time since I've done a YouTube video, and I figure I'm gonna jump back in. I've kind of painted myself into a corner, and I'm gonna try to take you along for the ride as I get myself out of it, or try to anyways. So get into the shop and get going. So I've basically boxed myself into a corner, and we got, I want to say, less than 30 days before Saab Owners Convention. I know some of you have come to the channel for other things like the Evo that I never finished that series. Some other stuff you might have seen on my Instagram. I do a lot of Saab stuff if you don't know, and big Saab convention's coming up in less than 30 days, and I have a disaster everywhere. I'm gonna see if I can dig myself out of this hole that I've gotten myself into, because at the moment the shop is an absolute disaster. There's stuff everywhere, customer projects, local vehicle stuff, orders, the whole nine. So I'm gonna try to take you along as I get myself out of this mess. Hopefully it's entertaining. We'll kind of see what's going on. One of the first things I'm gonna do is Brent, somewhat local to me, guy in Denver, about 2 hours away. We've done an Evo hood for his 9.3, and now I need to do a matching upper grill insert that's gonna match the 9.3 lower Vigan grill insert. So I'm gonna knock this one out and just start slowly picking off. I'm gonna slowly start picking off all the different orders, customer stuff that's gonna be going on, and just try to get it through. I've got about a week that I want to try to get all my orders through before this the Saab Owner Convention. Just ahead of that, I've got a bunch of orders that came through the website that kind of inundated me and kind of put me behind on a lot of stuff. So I'm working through a lot of those. I'm gonna take you along as those get worked through, but let's start plucking off the ones that are right in front of me, and this grill's gonna be a pretty straightforward one. So I'm gonna kind of throw on some time lapse, do a little CAD. I might explain with some, voiceover of what I'm doing and why I'm doing it, but I'm gonna try to just not talk and work through the project. So we'll get rolling. So generally speaking, images, patterns, whatever I need to reproduce in CAD usually fits in about 11 by 17 or smaller, so like a scanned bed size image. This obviously is not the case, and it not being flat kind of adds its own challenge as well. So what we've gone ahead and done is made out of border what's effectively my scan bed size, and this is going to be what my image fits into. So what I've done is I've emailed the pictures that I've taken from all that over to myself and opened it here in Illustrator. Okay, so that wraps up the design work of that hood vent for Brent. Because it's so thin, there's so many holes. Normally I would, at this point, be switching over to prepping for cutting it on the plasma table. Unfortunately, that's just not gonna cut it, literally. There's gonna be too much heat input from a plasma. So I'm gonna send this off to a company called Send Cut Send. They're gonna laser cut it for me in some 60,000 stainless. So a little bit thicker than what was in there from the factory, a little bit thicker than what the Vigan lower grill is that we're emulating there. And it's stainless, so we got, good heat rejection from a lot of what's going on there. It's thicker, so it won't deform, and stainless, so it won't rust. So a lot of good things going on there. It's gonna be a pricey piece, but it's definitely one of a kind. So that's gonna make Brent's project even better. So that's being sent off. I'll probably get that back in about a week. So we're gonna move on to some other stuff. Between now and then, I'll be fixing and repairing a little bit of cracked stuff from the Evo hood opening that they just tend to crack and get old. So We deal with that ahead of time or when the grill arrives and it all gets welded together. Now I just gotta find something else to move on to. Just gotta keep plowing through. Again, less than 30 days till Saab Owners Convention. Everybody's orders from the website are priority over my car. I basically have a rolling shell that I'm supposed to be taking to SOC. That's a 6-hour road trip there and back, and then I got a week-long vacation after that. Let's see if it happens. So keep rolling. All right, now that I'm cleaning this garage. Now that the upper grill is done, at least designed and sent off to the company that's going to cut it, I need to move on to some other stuff. Cleaning is among them, but next on the agenda is I got to modify some charge pipes that we did for Brent's car, so these can go back up to him. So I'm just throwing on time lapse. I got to shorten these and kind of add a vent port for the crankcase, and then they can go away and on to the next job after that. So away we go. Okay, so that's all wrapped up, pretty straightforward. I left it long because I didn't have the car here to test fit on. So I made the parts as close as I could. This is the charge pipe leaving the turbo, top mount, so it's down and then ties into, it actually eliminated the factory coupler, so it's just I think a 45 straight into the intercooler and then blow off valve straight back up to the intake. So it sits something like that in the car. Now, here, one of the problems is that the recirculation, the PCV, that basically the pipe that pulls crankcase pressure into the turbo, so it's always pulling vacuum here, it was overlooked. It's my mistake. I should have mocked that up and realized that, but it's powder coated, and timeline being what it is, it would be nearly impossible to expect this to be modified, stripped, back to powder coating, and then back to Brent before the car show, with time to make sure that everything's going to work and the car's back together, because his car is mostly apart as well. So we got a little bit of a trick up the sleeve for this one. I need to double check some orientation on this, how it's sitting in the car. I want to say it's completely flat, so the bends are just on one plane, but I got to double check that. So once I do that, this is the mark. It'll kind of tell me my angle, and then I've got a fitting that I'm gonna make for that. So this is an adapter that I made for my car, specifically because I wanted that same vacuum PCV system port to actually come in to the coupler like that. So I machined that, welded some pieces, made an adapter, and then it's held with a jam nut and a rubber hose, and that links that setup together. So I'm going to essentially do the exact same thing with Brent's. Brent's setup is on a little bit of a different angle, so I got to figure that out, and it's all going to be a little bit of trial and error, I guess. Okay, so at the core of this endeavor is basically these threaded adapters for chandeliers, light fixtures, that kind of stuff. I needed a threaded tube, and this is the best thing that I could find. There really wasn't anything else out there that was just ready to go without me having to spend the time to make something. The tube also ended up being very close to the size of the steel tube that comes across the valve cover anyways, so it was perfect. And then after that is some Delrin bar. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn off some threads on both ends, cut it to length, and start mocking up about what length this needs to be at. This is really just to separate, spread some load onto the tube and to provide something to seal against. Doesn't have to be very big, so I'm gonna just sort of wing all this as I go to kind of just develop it. Well, that's that. That takes care of the first part of the equation, which is just a threaded tube, with the threads turned off. I think this is going to work for the length that I need. Just tested the jam nut and knit threads on, so that's pretty good there. Next step is now moving on to the Delrin. So essentially I just need to drill a hole the same size as the thread diameter and then pick a length. And after that, I'm pretty much going to be shaping it by hand to get the angle. This is going to kind of determine the angle to start with, and then I'll weld a backing plate, so to speak, that's kind of going to fix everything in its position. So get the Delrin loaded up and punching right along. Now that the lathe work is done, we got our threaded tube and our Delrin bushing. I gotta poke a hole in this thing, and fortunately Brent went ahead and marked it for me, so I at least have a location. Now the tricky part is, even though he marked it, I have to kind of interpret from pictures that he sent what angle it's gonna end up being. So I'm gonna go ahead and start by putting the 1/2 inch hole through there, nice tight fit on that, and then what I'll start doing is modifying the Delrin sleeve to basically make up whatever that angle is going to be, and then I'll be able to make a backing washer that makes that same shape to tie it all together. So get to putting holes in some expensive tube. Okay, so off camera, I took care of basically the fender washer, the backing plate that's going to be the foundation for what this nut is actually going to tighten against. I went ahead and made that anyways and got it shaped up. I just used the box and pan brake to give it a little bit of a curve. Now it matches the inside diameter of the 3-inch turbo inlet. So to weld these up and to kind of wrap up this part of the project, they can't have the zinc plating that comes on these, the anti-corrosion coating. So what that means is I'm gonna let these dip in some muriatic acid for about 20 minutes, and that'll strip them all the way down to bare metal. And once that's done, rinse them off in some baking soda water solution, and we'll get to welding them up, and then I'm done with this. On to the next. So after a few minutes in the acid tank, we're down to bare metal. So kind of give you an example. We got one plated and one unplated. So now what I'm gonna do is basically rough mock this up, kind of get an idea where it's gonna lay. And I'm gonna tack in one side, test fit, then weld in the whole thing. And that's basically what the whole assembly is gonna end up looking like. I'm gonna be using an O-ring on this side, on the outside, to seal it up. But that's pretty much about it. So I'm about wrapped up with this. I'm gonna leave the camera rolling while I weld it up and get to the conclusion of it. Okay, so that's the end result. Hopefully you can see that pretty well. I think it came out perfect. My only concern now is hopefully that I got the right angle, because literally I'm eyeballing this based on pictures and just a rough idea of how this is laying out. Well, I'm gonna wrap it up there. This is the first day of 25 days till COS. pretty much going to be all Saab stuff at this point moving forward. I think I've got some customer car stuff, some RSX and Evo stuff might nail before going, but this week that we're in right now, it's going to be all orders from the website that I'm going to try to wrap up and get to everybody, because I know there are a lot of people waiting on parts. So this is off the agenda now. On to motor mounts. I think that's going to be my all day tomorrow. It's just making 9.5 motor mounts, because I got pretty large order on really back orders of motor mounts. So work through all those tomorrow, and hopefully I'm looking pretty good with that. Every day through the rest of this week, I'm going to try to clear out every order that's on the website that's left, and that way I have maybe 2 weeks to get my car done, which if I give myself 2 weeks, I think I can get it nailed down. So let's wrap it up there.